So, you know, masturbation is part of that. Masturbation is being true and being loving to yourself. The other thing you mentioned was a cultural denial of masturbation is the basis for sexual repression. Being responsible for our own orgasm gives us a choice. And I love when you said that, because it is a choice that we allow ourselves to be sexual, that we allow ourselves to be orgasmic to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And how we have our orgasms is just an individual thing. And we can just, I wish that this business about vaginal versus clitoral would just end, because even a vaginal orgasm is the result of indirect clitoral stimulation. The clitoris is much more involved than just the little nub that you can see on the little clitoral glands that we see on the outside.
Right.
Internally, it is quite a magnificent sex organ, and we have nearly as much erectile tissue as men. Ours is internal.
Ours is internal.
Yeah.
And the piece that I remember somebody saying was the fact that women also, I mean, there's the old saying that if men aren't allowed to reach a climax, then they get what's called blue balls. But women also get that internally because of the fact that if we're not orgasmic, we get high blood pressure. We
Well,
have.
just think about it, Charlie. That if you're getting sexually aroused and you're getting the blood is pumping into your sex organ, and there's no release, it can take up to 10 hours for the blood to drain. Whereas if you have an orgasm, then it's an instant release.
Right.
So no wonder women go around cranky and in a bad mood.
Exactly.
You know, they get turned on and they don't get a release.
Right. And understanding that we can do that for ourselves. Even if our partner, male or female, because sometimes our partners come before we do, so understanding that we can, pleasure ourselves or have
pick
them
up
pleasure
your vibrator and finish yourself off.
I'm a big advocate for that part. It's just finish yourself off. And knowing that you could do it in front of your partner, or if you get too embarrassed, say, honey, I'm taking a moment, I'm going to the bathroom, I'm going to finish. But it beats 10 hours of being miserable. It beats 10 hours of being angry. And then the fact that one of the things that I always say is if you don't talk to your partner and communicate what you need and communicate that, you need just a little bit more to finish, then you're not allowing that person to be the kind of lover that they want to be for you. Because I think anybody that is your lover really wants to please you.
Yeah, I think it's
just they don't know how if you don't tell them.
Exactly.
Yeah. There was another comment you had made about the vagina monologues. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Well, I would like for people to stop calling the female sex organ a vagina. The vagina is the birth canal. And
exactly.
The reason I object to this is that if we constantly say vagina, our vagina, the vagina, is that we're focusing on a sex organ that the men can come with, but not what most of us can come with. Now, everyone's going, I have a friend who has vaginal orgasm. Fine. I have no problem. Let her have her vaginal orgasms. I think it's wonderful. I can't have them that way. Most of my friends can't. The women who come and see me can't. So if the biggest portion of American women, and who knows all over, if we do not have our orgasms that way, then who's to say what's normal?
Exactly.
I say clitoral stimulation during vaginal penetration is essential for most women.
Right.
And I recommend the woman does her own clitoris, which is that's a big jump for many of us. But once
you
that
reach
happens,
down and you touch.
Absolutely. Nobody knows my clitoris better than me.
Right. And the piece of teaching your partner how to stimulate you. Yeah. Which is really important.
Well, see, that's kind of an ideal image, Charlie, that, I can show him what I like and how I like to be touched. But the truth is that they'll go off on their own trip, they'll lose track, or they'll lose contact, or it's not what I need, and it's not really what I want, and it's not fast enough, or firm enough, or soft enough, or whatever, and he's getting, his increase in excitement, and it's a lot to keep track of. I'll do it myself, please.
Right. That's a good
DIY.
thing. I always used to say in my classes when I was teaching human sexuality was the fact that, you know, the old saying of boys have a penis, girls have a vagina is really not right.
No.
It's women have a vulva that includes a vagina.
Well, I would say it this way. Little Billy has a penis, and little Mary has a clitoris. You don't hear the word clitoris. It disappeared. So little Mary has a clitoris, and when little Billy plays with his penis and little Mary plays with her clitoris, in certain way, it feels really good. Instead of, when little Billy puts his penis inside little Mary's vagina, that's how babies are made. That's the first information we get. We get procreation, we don't get pleasure information.
Right.
So it starts us off on entirely the wrong foot. And mothers have control over this. The mothers can change this by the first information they give their children.
Right.
It's not about birth, it's about touching your genitals in a way that feels good. Then you're setting yourself up for a life of sexual pleasure instead of agony and misery.
Right. And I think it's really important that we let our children know that it's okay to masturbate, that
Absolutely.
it's okay to touch themselves.
That's that whole bugaboo that if a child is encouraged to masturbate, it will encourage partner sex. It's just the opposite, is entirely the opposite. If they can masturbate and relieve those, particularly as teenagers, and relieve those urges, they have more control over their sex lives, not less.
Exactly. Exactly. And they feel more comfortable, and they feel more self-assured with themselves. Right. I work with mentally handicapped as well, and part of what I do is I talk to them about the appropriateness of sex, or where it's okay to touch themselves or kiss their partner in a certain way, and that's one of the topics that we touch upon, the fact that yes, it's okay for you to masturbate and touch yourself, but let's do it in a quiet place, you know, away from everybody else, because that's something that you do by yourself. You know,
that's all they need to know.
That's all they need to know. And it's also the fact that being age appropriate with our children allows them to also develop into the adult. If somebody would have told us that it was okay to masturbate, I don't think we would have had as many hang-ups growing up. Well, that's, you know, for some individuals that have so many hang-ups, you know, they wouldn't have that if people were self-positive, if their parents were talking to them.
I talk about this all the time, that I had the good fortune of having a mother who thought masturbation was a natural activity for children. So I didn't get any negative messages.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I tried to do the same thing for my son.
Good.
Yes.
There's nothing better than
very
having
big on that.
a sex-positive, orgasmic, pro-masturbation mother. That'll set you up for a lifetime.
Yeah. And as they get older, I don't know if you know, for some of the more liberated moms, you can give them a small vibrator to let them play with, or they have the little finger vibrators. I mean, there's so many, you know, toys that you can use as well as you get older. I know a lot of them are shown as novelty items, but those are things that you can also, you know, tell your adult children, you know, your older teenagers, that, you know, if they're going out, they can also get toys. So different things, different amazing things. So it's always, as a parent, it's always an individual thing. And the piece that I always tell parents is the fact that if you're not talking to your children about sex, somebody else is. Or they're getting osmosis from
media,
the music, the TV, the movies, you know, the advertising out there.
Yeah, most of it is, most sex education today that the young people are getting is from pornography. That is not sex education, that is sex entertainment. And it's a tragedy, because that is not adequate training or information. It's way over the top.
Yeah. You also mentioned that you have a website that you're putting together.
Oh yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your website.
I have a new partner, Carlin Ross. She's a young woman, 35, so she's mid-30s, I'm late 70s, and so we are now going to have an intergenerational conversation about feminism and sex, because I think the reason the feminist movement got lost or drifted, I've traced it back to it. I think it happened in the 80s. AIDS, then we had the abuse industry booming, and everything was about sexual abuse and incest and all the nasty things. And my workshops during that decade where, you know, women were crying and, oh, they have an abuse and this, and I said, we're here to investigate pleasure. And if you're